All right, welcome everyone. Sorry for the late start. I had some technical difficulties on my end. Not able to see the chat through the usual portal, so I'm trying something different today. Um, I'll still be able to see your messages. It just might be a delay in me seeing and posing your questions. All right, welcome to the second installment of the review and study series of the 21 Lessons in Metaphysics, the foundation of mystic and yogic teachings. Let's go ahead and open up with a prayer for spiritual workers, and then we'll move into our usual announcements and session. Let me do a quick check to make sure everything is good. Okay, sounds good. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. All right. Welcome again, everyone, to the second installment of the review and study series, a continuation of the review and study series. Um, Today we will continue with the 21 Lessons of Metaphysics. And again, that is a series on our YouTube channel. And you can find that original lecture series if you go to our YouTube channel, which most of you are on right now if you're watching this online. And on playlists, you see the 21 Lessons of Metaphysics. You click on View Full Playlist. This lecture series we will be covering throughout the RSS, which should take us, if not the remainder of this year, then a good portion of the next few months. We will be looking at a transcript of the classes that are available in the playlist. Now, again, I'm looking at this through. Oh, okay. No, so this is the public. This is what all of you will see. So your classes 1, 2, 4, class 8, 8-2, 8-3, 8-4, 8-5, 13, 15, and 16. We'll cover those classes as well as the Q&A class on Brahmacharya. That one I may leave after class 16, so that we'll finish up with the Q&A class. And that'll also be an opportunity for additional Q&A to cover the review of this series. What we'll do is we'll look at a transcript of each class, and we'll also look at the illustrations and handouts that were presented during the the class from 11 years ago, and then we'll also look at some updated handouts illustrations that were given since those classes were given. Now, for this series, the 21 lessons, it covers the foundations of metaphysics. And as you know, or some of you may not know, the methodology of the International Mystic Knowledge Center is to tie the mystic teachings to the mystic constitution of man. Um, in Mr. Davis's upcoming book titled The Mystic Constitution of Man, that will be a text encompassing the entire methodology of the International Mystic Knowledge Center, as well as a foundational text that we'll use throughout the years to come um, in our studies and in our practice. In Mr. Davis's first two books, The Ancient Language of the Soul and The Miracle Kit of Prayer, the mystic constitution of man is touched upon and expanded upon, um, especially in the material that's given in the lectures. And so for this series, last session, I mentioned that I was going to assign certain readings from um, Yogi Ramacharaka's book, as well as chapter 5 from the Miracle Kit of Prayer, which talks about the mystic constitution of man. And those readings are assigned, but today, last time I mentioned that I wasn't going to read chapter 5, but just leave that for you to read. But what I decided to do, since we took 2 weeks off, 1 week was for Mother's Day, and the next week I was traveling, so I was not able to host a class. Since we took 2 weeks off, I'm going to go back today and review and read through chapter 5, maybe spend the next two sessions reading chapter 5. And as depending on how far I get, that's as far as I'll get, and I'll leave the rest of the reading of that text for all of you to catch up with. And then that way, what I want to do is kind of use the or structuring the RSS going forward is have an assigned reading to go for whatever particular series we're covering at that time. And then I'll operate under the assumption that you've completed that assigned reading before we and have already watched the lecture series as we go into future studies. The RSS will cover uh, not just lectures, but books and other materials that have been made available either through the International Mystic Knowledge Center, through our website, or through our lectures, or through the Aether Society, through their books or lectures, and other materials, some stuff from the Theosophical Society, some things from the Divine Life Society, and so on and so forth. So this will be an ongoing, I guess you could say, initiative um, to allow us to review the ancient teachings, study the ancient teachings, and to expand on the ancient teachings as what as an accompaniment to the lecture series that Mr. Davis has given in the past and will continue to give in the future. So for today, you're reminded to go back and review classes 1 and 2. Well, you're welcome to review all of them, but just for a start, review classes 1 and 2. Take your questions and notes down, and then when we get to the transcript for class 1, welcome discussion from everyone as we review that material. And then mention here the post announcements in 2026. Next year, I plan to cover um, the Serpent Power, the Secrets of Tantric and Shakti Yoga lecture series, and that's also there on the playlist. Let's hop back there. Let me show you. So after we finish the 21 lessons, we'll go to the Serpent Power, and that is here. A series of lectures that Mr. Davis gave on the Serpent Power. Most of these videos should be available for everyone to see. I think there's maybe one or two that's hidden. Um, but this will take us a good while. I expect a review of the Serpent Power book and lectures will take us an entire year, if not more. So what I'll do is I'll separate this RSS out to a separate series so that it does not take away from the lectures um, that we traditionally give in the IMKC, as well as other offerings that we'll give throughout the years. So that's next year. But you're given plenty of prior warning, so you can go back and start studying the text, as well as um, preparing your questions as you go through this material. So that leaves, as well as our Florida group for their society. We continue to hold our weekly 12 blessing services on Thursday evenings. You're welcome to attend in person as well as online via Zoom. And we, as a group, stream our commemoration services. Sometimes we will tune in with headquarters, or sometimes if the timing does not match up, then we'll hold our commemoration services on another date, which works best for the group. And you're more than welcome to participate in those services as well. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, today we're going to look at chapter 5 of the prayer book. This isn't working with me today. So the title of the prayer book is The Miracle Kit Behind the Power of Prayer, the Mystic Knowledge of Manipulating the Subtle and Cosmic Energies of Prana through Prayer Techniques. This book is available, as well as Mr. Davis's first book, The Ancient Language of the Soul, on Amazon for everyone to either purchase a physical copy or download. I think there's a digital version available of both versions that you can download and read. In some of the earlier classes of the study sessions, I actually read The Ancient Language of the Soul. And wait, did I read the Miracle Kit Behind the Power of Prayer? I don't remember. I think I did, or excerpts from it. But either way, you can go back and find the text itself either on Amazon or the reading I did of them in our playlist, and you're welcome to use those as part of your study metaphysical library. But today we're going to look at chapter 5. And chapter 5 talks about understanding the subtle makeup of man used in mystic prayer. So although the emphasis or the theme of this text is on prayer, the subtle makeup is the subtle makeup. And even this text applies the mystic constitution to the science of prayer. But in this chapter, the focus is on the mystic constitution. So we'll read through this chapter as in preparation for the Metaphysics 101 series, and then we'll go through the 101 series. So we'll enter the 101 series, or the review of the not 101, I'm sorry, the 21 lessons series. We'll enter the 21 lessons series already having this material as our foundation. And I think that way it'll allow us to gain much more out of the lecture. Because in the 21 lessons series, you'll notice that due to, time constraints and to the constraints and limitations of the people who were in attendance, Mr. Davis uh, tailored his presentation to best help those who were there at that time. But he may answer a question or address a topic with maybe 2 or 3 lines of dialogue. But in those 2 or 3 lines of dialogue, there's, you know, dozens or hundreds of pages of additional information that can be gleaned or pulled from just a few lines of dialogue. And so to help us to gain and absorb as much as we can from this review of that 21 lesson series, um, I figured that having a review of this chapter in particular, as well as other information in the book as well, you can go back and pick up the Ancient Language of the Soul and the Miracle Kit of Prayer, read them, and use those to help you as textbooks as we go through the lectures. and you'll be able to pull so much more information from the lectures. I actually encourage you to review the lectures multiple times. You're not going to get everything from the classes with just a single pass or even two passes. Um, and even now, as I'm reviewing them 10, 11 years later, um, there's a lot of things that I missed the first couple of times around that I'm able to hear and pick up on, some of the nuances I'm able to pick up on now after, having been exposed to this material for over a decade. So I would welcome you all to, as we read chapter 5, to take notes. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. Again, I'll do my best to review your questions as quickly as possible. There is a bit of a delay because of the technical difficulties I'm having on my end, but any questions or comments you have, by all means, post them in the chat. I'll do my best to catch them and post them as I stop periodically throughout the reading of chapter 5. Okay. So there's a question here by Hari. Hope I said your name properly. Can you tell something about manifestation, and how does manifestation work in the metaphysical world? Excuse me. What are the things that we should consider while manifesting a certain outcome?
I guess asking about imagination and visualization, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. So
Excuse me.
they, I really don't like talking about that in a loose way because of the market today, the new age market today. They talk about this law of attraction and all the material things that they have people visualizing to gain material wealth or material, and that's not the proper way to do it, to understand this stuff. But all the teachings give this. You just have to recognize that it's the teachings are there. Uh, I would tell you to get a. I would tell you to go and listen to a lecture given by Dr. George King called "Imagination is Your Only Creative Faculty," and listen to that, and then come back and ask more questions. But in short, I will tell you the technique. I won't tell you the technique, but I'll give you the knowledge behind it. And you have an imagination. Anything you think of, or anybody think of, they can put enough energy to bring it into being. And think about it like this: everything that's around you right now, every single thing that's around you right now, started in the mind of someone. This computer and this app that we're on, it started in the mind of someone. The pencil, the paper, the desk, the electricity, all of this started in the mind of someone, and they manifested through a calculated study of what's needed to bring those elements together on the physical plane to make it work. What most people today in our time they don't consider the mind energy and the five major pranas, five minor pranas, the auric substance all around our aura to in order to manifest something into being. And that's mainly because we live on this gross, dense realm of existence. But in order for anything to exist, we had to map it out in the mental world and make the right common conditions in the mental world to bring it here to the physical world. And we do that every single day. So there are techniques to make this happen, to have this to happen in a balanced way. But when you gain the ability to do it, your karma is accelerated. And that's one of the reasons why I'm against a lot of these new age groups that give some techniques, but not all, but not the complete technique, and have a phrase, let everyone be rich, but let me get mine first. Because that's bringing about the wrong karmic balance for people. But listen to that lecture tape by Dr. George King and then come back and ask. You can find it on theorist.org. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, Duane, I had trouble getting on today. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I was talking to the media. So yeah, me too for some reason. So this is the lecture you mentioned, concentration, contemplation, meditation.
No, no. Imagination, your only creative
Oh,
faculty.
imagination. That's right. That's close enough. Here it is.
That's it right there.
Yeah, it's about an hour and 20 minutes. You can find this at cloud.ethereus.org. And if you search for imagination, you'll find the lecture. Hardy has a follow-up question. Can you teach me the technique, please?
Yeah, I will, but go and listen to that tape first and that lecture. I call it a tape. It's an auto now. Now, but when I listened to it 30, 40 years ago, it was on a cassette tape. But it's one of the few that, and then there's a couple other books by, I think by Swami Sivananda and the guy who wrote the Yoga Ramacharaka, William Walker Atkinson. They have some books on it as well, but have to be very careful about this because it accelerates your karma. So you have to get the right concept and behind it. This is only an hour and what you said, 20 minutes.
Yes.
And you can generate questions from there. You can email me back at Mystic Lessons at Gmail or the Mystic Knowledge Center at Gmail.
Right. And it's something that Dr. King and Mr. Davis talks about a lot. And um, Everything is a magical act. What I mean by that is we look at metaphysics and physics as two different things when really it's not. So when we talk about manifestation, we some of us, our minds are pulled to some type of magical action where we imagine something and then poof, it appears in front of us. But like Nehemiah was talking about, the computer, the program, everything started in the mind, and then through following them, going through the motions that it talks about, that imagination, that concept we thought about in our heads is brought to the physical realm. So we do that all the time. If you just say that when I grow up, I want to be a policeman or an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, and then you went through the motions throughout the years to become an engineer, a doctor or a lawyer, you manifested that reality yourself. And so don't, what was that book called again? To Do, Doing, Done is one of the books that you recommended to us. Um, that book,
It's in the business world.
yeah, it's in the business world, but that's part of manifesting a reality or something that you want to do. But it takes you through a step-by-step process, which people don't think is a magical action, but it is magic. When um, everything is magical. Um, the process of cooking a meal, following a recipe, and producing that desired result is a magical act, just as much as um, following the steps of prayer and producing or spiritual healing. It's just as much of a process, a scientific process, um, as designing an engine. So don't divide or split these concepts apart. Metaphysics is physics, and physics is metaphysics. It's all one whole science, just looked at from different perspectives. If that makes sense. Welcome, friends joining us from Italy. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And again, if you have additional questions or comments, feel free to post them in the chat and we will do our best to address them. So last time we started off with reading the 21 lessons, or reading from the first draft of the 21 lessons handout that was given by Mr. Davis to all of us who attended the class. He had created a write-up which outlined the major subject headings throughout the 21 Lessons series, which included spirit, the life of man as divine spark of God, the soul of man as the manifest expression of spirit, the Shakti power, its principles and function, and the soul's involution and modification Shakti, and so on. In chapter 5, many, if not all of those same subjects are covered and touched upon, but it's in this book, it was just a bit more polished and updated for publication. So I decided to move from that 21 lessons handout to chapter 5 again for the reasons I mentioned earlier, as to kind of lay a foundation for the 21 lesson series, because many subjects are touched in the 21 lesson series. It's the overall um, subject matter is touched upon in chapter 5 of the Mercury of Prayer, but in the Instant Constitution of Man book, which is Mr. Davis's third book, which will be published soon, a in-depth treatise is given on the mystic constitution of man. And so it's I think I think even before, if not by the end of this review of the 21 lessons, I think the book will be ready and we'll be able to wrap up this study series with that book and show everyone or expand upon the 20 lessons material so that in future sessions, we will actually have the Mystic Constitution textbook uh, or as a reference for all the other metaphysical sciences that we'll talk about, or mystic sciences that we'll talk about in the upcoming series. I will not read from the Mystic Constitution of Man book anytime soon, because again, we're still working on that, and so you'll have to be patient. But you have more than enough material, be it lecture, video, um, text from other authors, as well as material from the Dear Society that will recommend it throughout this series to study and review before we get to before the release that book, Mr. Constitution. All right. So if there are no other questions, let's begin with understanding the subtle makeup of man used in mystic prayer. The mystic metaphysical philosophy teaches that man has many facets to his makeup. Excuse me. Man's true nature is spirit, a divine spark of God, and everything else is but a divine sheet of clothing to weather any storms on the pathway through life. Each divine sheet of clothing is a state of being manifesting a specific level of consciousness that inhibits the inner light of the spirit. Each divine sheath of clothing or group of divine sheaths make up the levels of consciousness from the lower and higher aspects of man. The spirit of man, the divine spark of God, the I am of man. This subject is probably the most difficult one to approach and comprehend for most students because of the limited scope of our awareness and physical limitations to life. Oh, also, this comment was made to me previously, so I'm going to mention it again. For those of you who English is not your first language, if I'm reading too fast, please let me know in the comments and I'll slow down just so that you're able to follow along better. I typically read pretty quickly, but if it's too difficult for you to understand or if I'm going too fast, let me know and I'll slow down and have no problem um, reading a bit slower to help you to comprehend and follow along. We live in a mortal physical state of mind, which does not allow us to truly comprehend the complexity of our true nature. The spirit of man, a divine spark of God that dwells within and all around us, allows us to make our being through involution to evolution while never moving from its divine position of endless power and endless potential of that power. What is this thing called spirit? This has been expressed and defined, in many different ways by all walks of life. The yogi mystic believes that God is the absolute, the all in all, the life and source behind all things. It is all things and even more than that. Words cannot truly express or define the nature of this supreme power. Our feeble minds struggle to comprehend the greatness of the relationship to our divine source. To understand the spirit, we must understand that we can only understand some faint concept of God, the supreme absolute. Spirit is a divine spark of God, which has involved itself as a point of consciousness within man. This point of consciousness is the spirit of man's existence. Being in a state of unmanifested existence, it moves to manifest a part of itself as a point of consciousness on the highest level of manifestation within creation, which is the soul. In the forward movement of this involution, the unmanifested part of the spirit splits a part of its divine consciousness and creates a body for itself with one part unmanifested and the other manifested. For some of you, the term involution may be a new term and be quite confusing. We're used to um, evolution, which is the process of going from a moving from one form to the next, or sometimes going from a lower form to a higher form. But involution may be a bit confusing, which would be going from a higher form down to a lower. In the 21 Lessons lecture, Mr. Davis does go over this involutional process in detail. He takes some time to go over it because it may be confusing for many people. It was confusing for me when I first heard it. So I would invite you to go back to the lecture. Well, it's discussed more throughout the text, but I would invite you to go back to the classes 1 and 2 of the 21 lessons to get more in-depth explanation of involution itself, the term, as well as the process as it relates to us, which is being described here in the text. The body of the spirit is recognized as the soul. As stated above, this soul is unmanifested and manifested, just as the spirit, except for the spirit, which is never manifested, because it is that thing behind all manifestation. The God principle within man is the I am, that part of man's existence that man made in its own image, which is the soul, which is the I of man. The spirit is a part of the absolute, which is unmanifested because it is too vast and too pure to be touched or contained because it is all. So it creates a point of consciousness of itself as spirit that is unmanifested, but is expressed through the soul that is unmanifested and manifested. The unmanifested part of the spirit and soul is untouchable, unseen, unheard, but is the background and source of power for everything that is manifested. The manifested portion of the soul is far less than a fraction of the unmanifested existence. The spirit is that sacred flame within us and outside, and yet exists in neither place because it exists everywhere. It is the cause of our involution and the long journey of countless lives through evolution. The spirit was the first aspect of man's creation, which is the highest possible aspect of creation, and will be the last to appear in the so-called full consciousness. It must be understood that spirit, unmanifested or manifested, has no need for consciousness because it is above this. In fact, it is the cause of consciousness. In fact, consciousness is part of the process of involution and the tool for man in evolution. All right, this sentence here, I don't want you to get confused into thinking that spirit is a creation of man. No, what Mr. Davis is referring to here is that in the creation of man, spirit is the first aspect. And in this sentence here, it must be understood that spirit, unmanifested or manifested, well, he's not saying here that spirit itself is manifested. The manifested portion of spirit is soul. But again, as mentioned earlier in the text, spirit is always unmanifested. Let me take a look. Any questions or comments? Okay, no. It is said that God spoke the word, and the word was God, and creation was formed. The word was a sonic vibration released from the absolute God, which made its impression on the universal mind substance and the all-pervasive cosmic energy, prana. The word was God, because God is all in all, and God and is God, for all things come from and is contained and maintained by God. It is said that the first word spoken could only be an expression that gives the name to the one life, the absolute God, and this word contained the expression of the will of God. He's touching on the seven dimensions of creation there. For those of you students of the Their Society, um, I invite you to review the lecture, The Seven Dimensions of Creation, the lecture as well as the transmission, Seven Dimensions of Creation, which is um, being expressed throughout the text and throughout a proper discussion or education on the mystical constraint of man. But you won't be able to connect those dots without having reviewed both the transmission and the lecture again, released by Dr. George King through their society, and then bring that back to the 21 lesson series, and you will begin to see how um, all this is interwoven together, and how the expression um, of those seven dimensions are working throughout all of creation. It wasn't a one-time thing. It is working. It's and interweaving throughout all of manifestation. This word that was expressed had the power to affect the universal mind substance of static force of endless potential that has an unlimited source of all power in a state of complete static, the Shiva, a positive power. When the Absolute released the word, a sonic vibration, or the first movement, it had a ripping effect upon this universal mind substance and the all pervasive cosmic energy. This ripping effect caused a chain reaction called creation, Shakti, a negative power. The sonic vibration was the great word that contained all sound and words, nada and sabda, a neutral power. The greatest mantra known to man today. Within the word mantra is the root word man, which means to think. The great mantra, released by the Absolute, contains the thought configuration of all creation. Mantra is the force or power that activates the universal mind and cosmic energy. Excuse me. Mantra is the force or power that activates the universal mind and cosmic energy into a state of manifestation called creation. Creation is a result of a sonic vibration being placed on the universal mind substance and the all pervasive cosmic energy in a framework of divine law and time units to produce a manifestation of involutional and evolution in a spiral effect of cosmic matter from the micro level to macro level and vice versa. Okay, so in nature's finer forces, the modes of motion are described. And you might help me out, Nehemiah, 'cause I know I'm gonna mess this up. There are several modes of motion that are encompassed within this first um, word, this first motion, this initial motion, this initial word that is given. And I mentioned that because in further in the 21 lessons, Uh, when Mr. Davis breaks down those energy forces into uh, the the Mahabindus and the the pranas and so forth, it's it's still all this initial sound, but there's various as it takes on different modes of motion, it takes on different characteristics, and those each of those characteristics is given a definition or a term in Sanskrit. Like Mr. Davis and I were talking about this before, how English is a very limited language, and it makes it difficult to convey uh, uh, these ideas, which is why it's so important to go back and not ignore the Sanskrit, but to look at and to study the Sanskrit. So you'll see throughout the text, and even throughout Mr. Davis's teachings in the classes, he'll he'll give the Sanskrit, and then he'll also give the English as close to translation to help us understand. But the Sanskrit needs to be there because in those two terms right there, we just looked at the top of this paragraph, nada and sabda. It's two terms, but there's a lot of information behind those two terms, and there's a lot that's going on or trying to be conveyed in just those terms when talking about um, this aspect of manifestation called creation and then bringing it back to our own mystic constitution. So if you had opportunity, the I just mentioned a name. Um,
Nature.
Nature's Finer Forces. If you go back, it's on our website. You can download it for free, and you can read it. And you can in the first couple of chapters, I think it's in the first chapter. Uh, it's Rama Prasad, right? Rama Prasad, Nature's Finer Forces. Um,
Kwame
he
Wampa.
sorry, Rama Prasad. Yes, thank you. There's even illustrations given to help us understand these modes of motions and how they are expressed with the either the expansion, contraction, heating, cooling, solidification. Um, all of that is part of this initial thought, this initial um, sound, which which had the Mr. Davis describes it, the configuration or the megabytes of information that went into producing all the various levels from the supreme laws of creation all the way down to the plants and animals and minerals and respective planets and all aspects or manifestations or expressions of life.
Yeah, and another thing we need to think about, he was talking about the seven dimensions of creation given by Dr. George King, really given by Mars Sector 8 and through Dr. George King, and then Dr. George King expanding on it. If you look at that, the seven dimensions of creation is going back to Hera question, the seven dimensions of creation is actually a signature uh, uh, it's the signature patterns of imagination and visualization. When you look at how Dr. Jones King brilliantly laid that out, where he said divine will imposes those conditions upon the mind, right? Uh, uh,
Yes.
in in uh, in motion, in as directed motion in a time frame of length, breadth, and height. That is imagination and visualization.
Hmm.
That's the signature pattern of imagination and visualization. And it's hard for people to connect the dots, but when you are studying or sitting in the silence for hours upon time, those things become very simple to you. And the only thing I just think about it, divine will imposes those conditions upon the mind as directed motion in a time frame of length, breadth, and height. So you are imposing your will on the universal mind, in Sanskrit terms, chitta, and the mind is moved into manas as directed motion in order to go into the modes of motion of time in a framework of length, breadth, and height. So that's imagination and sustained visualization under the direction of the divine will. So it's just that simple. But you have to take time to think about it. So, and then the sound mantra is a key to molding and shaping uh, matter, energy and matter. Why? Because what is sound? Sound is gross thought. Is thought being produced. Mantra is the original language of the soul, which still exists in the chakras, which moves the five major pranas and create the minor pranas in order to help balance the physical manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not hard. It's very simple to understand, but you got to take time. The same way we take time to look at other things, you got to take time to look at this in detail. And you will see that it's not hocus pocus. It follows physical and metaphysical laws, which are nothing but the laws of God in active manifestation.
Any questions, comments? No? Okay. This sonic vibration is the force that helps to configure all creation. The configuration produced from the sonic vibration is, let me slow down. The configuration produced from the sonic vibration is used to bring these subtler cosmic energies and mind substance into manifestation. These sonic vibrations are placed on the all-pervasive sea of mind substance that is full of endless potential in a state of static or stillness. You can think of stillness when thinking about static. This causes a configuration of this mind substance, of this endless potential to activate itself. Or silence. Actually, I think silence is better than stillness. The configuration produced from this sonic vibration being placed on the mind substance brings into manifestation a concentration of cosmic energies that responds directly to the configuration of this sonic vibration. This produces all the components of creation, from the micro to the macro, a sonic vibration that produces the configurations of creation. Oh, sorry, the sonic vibration that produces the configurations of creation is mantra. As stated above, the great holy word, creative sonic vibration, released from the Absolute at the start of creation, is that force that impresses the all-pervasive mind substance and universal cosmic energies, thereby bringing this static endless potential of manifestation into creation as active manifestation. The configuration is produced from the amalgamation or mixture of these mighty forces, which was caused by the great word being released from the Absolute, are the inner signatures of all the micro and macro manifestations of creation. The sonic vibration that permeates the universe is the creative signature of all manifestation. Uh-oh, what'd I do? Oh, I just lost myself. Vibration is per sun vibration that stated above. Back message. Okay. Vibration, the sonic vibration that permeates universe. This vibration is subdivided in thousands of units, reconfiguring manifestation throughout a time continuum. And behind all this is spirit, and the great tool of expression, the soul, used by spirit, which is the bodiless consciousness. The ancient teachings tell us that pure consciousness is Shiva, a positive static power of all potential, and within it is the power of Shakti in her formless and inactive state. So his referring to Shiva, her referring to Shakti. Pure consciousness is stillness and changeless. Pure consciousness is unmanifested and infinite. Pure consciousness cannot be contained and cannot be manifested. Pure consciousness is bodiless because it cannot be contained as pure consciousness. It is still part of the whole, the absolute, the God. The soul is a bodiless consciousness that expresses the duality of the spirit in its absolute state of all potential. This duality of power can be described as a positive and negative source of power. One source of the duality of power is a background source in perfect stillness, perfect silence, untouched, detached from all things, and attached to all things, all sound, and all movement. In the ancient books, it is called the power Shiva, a positive force. In the other source of this duality of power is the source of perfect movement, perfect sound, that source that connects itself to all things, that source that is the result of all actions. It is the power of all actions. This power was considered to be the female force, a negative power called Shakti in the ancient teachings. The thing that brings about a state of manifested consciousness is when the pure consciousness activates the Shakti aspect of itself and brings about the dissolution of consciousness. The Shiva aspect of the consciousness remains static and undisturbed. This Shakti aspect of the consciousness, when being activated, moves forward and becomes extremely active, producing an aspect of its power that manifests itself as mind and matter. Then, this same power manipulates this mind and matter into countless forms and shapes through countless situations. This process of the dissolution of consciousness produces several states of consciousness that can be described as manifested consciousness, unconsciousness, mind, and matter all intermingled to produce manifested states of consciousness. It must be understood that manifested consciousness can only be possible through through the limitation of consciousness. And this limitation includes the fact that manifested consciousness is always accompanied with a state of unconsciousness, mind and matter, and within it all is enshrined the spirit and the soul, the spirit and the soul. This, let me see if there's a question here. Okay. This Shiva and Shakti that's used by the soul is the commentating force that is activated by the Absolute through the use of the great word spoken at the beginning of creation. The soul uses these great cosmic energies to carry out the directives of the spirit by involving itself through the process of involution. As the Absolute spoke the word and creation came into being, so did the Spirit speak the word, and soul manifested itself from the Spirit, as did the Spirit emerge from the Absolute, for it is one and the same. One moment, please. All right, sorry. The word spoken by the Absolute encompasses the potential power of all creation, just as the Shiva and Shakti power possesses the two great powers of positive and negative. The divine spoken word is the neutral force and power that contains both powers and neither power because it cancels each other out, creating the ability to activate both sources. This divine spoken word is known as sonic vibration or in ancient terminology called nada, which is still an aspect of Shiva and Shakti. All right, let me stop here, see if there's any questions or comments. Okay. All right, so that section introduced us to spirit. We're going to dive into soul now. And in class one of the 21 lessons, focus is given on spirit, soul, Shakti, and Shiva. And we begin to, well, not we, Mr. Davis touches on the chakras near the end of the first class. So we, in this, in the second class, uh, more details given, or he goes into properly the chakras, designing their anatomy, function, and purpose. I think here we'll get into the chakras into the next section. Or we'll introduce the chakras in the next section, and then we'll move into the anatomy of the chakras, like the bindus and the bijas and so forth, and the topic raised with the chakras later on. Let's see, where did I stop here? Okay. The soul, the manifested consciousness of the spirit. The soul is the consciousness of the spirit. The manifestation of the soul represents a mere fraction of the power of the spirit that assists the spirit in managing the involution and evolution of man's existence. Now, although in this text and in this lecture series, the 21 lessons, we are focusing on the mystic constitution of man, but this process isn't only for man. Uh, Animals have soul, plants have soul, um, eh, planets have soul, solar systems have soul, the sun's a soul, and so on and so on and so forth. But for our purposes, to help us understand it, and in alignment with the teaching methodology of the International Mystic Knowledge Center, we are focusing on the mystic constitution of man. The soul is the I am of man. It is the first and true temple or body of the power of God, the Spirit. The soul is unmanifested and manifested, and also has no need for mind because its consciousness is supra consciousness. It is above consciousness. It is aware of the tremendous power of the Spirit and its connection to the all in all. The soul cannot truly understand the real existence of spirit because the spirit is a part of the all in all. Man's real self is spirit, and this spirit is that divine spark of God within him and outside of him that is manifested and unmanifested. It is a part of the absolute and is the absolute. This spirit represents the point of all knowledge space, the absolute bodiless consciousness that stands behind the soul and is the source that manifested the soul. Excuse me. This manifested part of the spirit, the soul, represents the consciousness of the spirit. It is the first realm of the divine consciousness that man individualizes with. The reality of it all is that spirit is part of the collected, unmanifested consciousness of the Absolute. It is said that the spirit fashioned the soul as a body for itself from itself. This soul is the shield, the body, and the transponder for the spirit. As the shield for the spirit, it takes on two qualities: an unmanifested state of consciousness and a manifested state of consciousness. The soul seems to have four main directives from the spirit. Number one, bring about the involutional process of itself through engrossing the cosmic energy through manifestation. Number two, manage this process of involution. Number three, initiate the journey of the evolutionary process from engrossed manifestation back to the unmanifested state. Number four, manage this process of evolution back to the Godhead. For a detailed and excellent treatise on um, the evolutional process for man, for humanity, and beyond um, this world, I would invite you to pick up and listen to the Nine Freedoms, the transmissions, the lectures, and the text published through the Atheist Society. As and as an accompaniment to that, Mr. Davis gave a lecture series on the Nine Freedoms, and I think videos of the first either four or six freedoms um, are up on the playlist. I'll look again at the end before we end today's session and let everyone know which videos are available. The nine listed topics below represent different tools or instruments of the soul used as the building blocks of man's manifested existences. The plan here is to give a Western mystical thesis on the metaphysical constitution of man using Eastern philosophy and terminology. I will try to connect the dots on these various subjects and show how each tool of expression by the soul leads into the next and intermingles to build systems of the subtler bodies that allow the physical body to exist. The following is a list of instruments that the soul uses to express itself, which can be called the mystic constitution of man. One, the chakra system. Number two, the nadi system. Number three, the superconscious mind. The supra-conscious mind. Number four, the subconscious mind. Number five, the conscious mind. Number six, Kundalini, the cosmic life force within man's bodies. Seven, Prana, the all pervasive cosmic energy. Eight, the subtler bodies. Nine, the physical body. I'll briefly go into each one of these points of self expression of the soul to bring some clarification of the above terminology. I hope that these brief explanations can suffice until I can go into greater detail in the later lessons of this subject. And those greater detail and the lessons are encompassed in the Mystic Constitution of Man text. The chakra system. The chakra system as we know it is the result of the nadi system defining itself with its nadi knots, which gives the location of the chakras. It is where the nadis intersect 7, 14, and 21 times that allow us to locate these nadi knots called chakras. It is stated that every time one of the nadi lines of force intersects 7 times, a minute chakra can be found there. Excuse me. Every time the nadi lines of force intersect 14 times, a minor chakra can be found in this location. And every time the nadi lines of force intersect 21 times, we will find a major chakra manifesting itself. Are chakras formed or defined by the nadis? Of course. It's defined because the chakras came first. The nadis came second. The chakras are points of consciousness and the points of universal consciousness that the soul can work from, and the realms of existence where the soul can manifest its many aspects of consciousness to gain valuable experience. The point of consciousness is connected to the all knowledge space, the Bindu. Therefore, it had to be there first. The Nadi system only defines the location of it and assists in redistributing its cosmic energies. These chakra points within the Nadi system are vortex centers for various levels of pranic and mind substance. They are entry points to the soul and the spirit's all knowledge space. Within each chakra is a series of seed mantras, and one chakra mantra that is associated with each chakra that is used to activate the super conscious points that links man with the spirit. These seed mantras and chakra mantras are sonic vibrations that man must use to calibrate the subtler cosmic energies that enter and exit the chakras. The most popular chakras are the 6 known major chakras along the spinal column and the major crown chakra above a spinal column. All right, and before we get to the table, let me see if there's any questions or comments. Okay. Table 5-1. Before that, I knew I had a question. Uh, would it be correct when we're thinking about the nadis, the intersections, and the defining of chakras, as that is using the illustration of like, say, cities, towns, and villages, and how a large city has many roads that travel to and through, intersect through it. A town will have not as many, have maybe less roads going through it, but still have a couple of major roads going through. In a village, and we have 1 or 2 major roads intersecting. It's kind of like saying how if we look at an atlas, a road atlas, we have these roads that intersect and define a major city, or guide or direct to a major city as inlets and outlets, and the same thing with towns and villages and so forth.
Um, yes and no. You have to remember, and just like I said, learn to connect the dots.
Hmm.
What is the vehicle of consciousness in the body?
Oh, Kundalini.
Okay. So where do the 4 aspects of sound originates from in the body?
From the Kundalini and the 4 centers, the and then
The
chakras.
Muladhara chakra, right?
Right. Hmm.
So in the Muladhara chakra have four what
Petals.
petals. So these 4 sounds starts it starts what? Where does basic consciousness come from?
from the from the expression of that sound and the branching off into
Right.
the
So
chakra, the nadis. Sorry.
the Muladhara chakra is known for the start of self-consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is basic consciousness. So the energy flow that comes from that is the nadis.
Mm-hmm.
and then it go to express itself through the other chakras. But the only place it can go is through the chakras, forming the various nadis, right? Because the chakras are already there. And the point of consciousness is already there. So it weaves itself through the knot, through that vortex center, creating creating a level of consciousness that it can work from based on its own karmic pattern.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yes.
So the same way a city may start, what you're talking about, the city forms its own consciousness by the makeup of its citizens and government and level of energy that it's going to express. That's why the yogis said that the wind is part of the nadis, the rain is part of the nadis, the how the flowers bloom is part of the nadis. Whether you have a excess of bugs, nets, birds, that's part of the nadis because they all move towards the energy, towards the light that's
Mm-hmm.
created there. So, so yes, that's why I say yes, and then I said no because of course the nadis of the earth is already there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but we create obstruction to reroute that wind, to reroute that flow of energy. Like Dr. George King said one time that a bird flapping its wings in Australia affects the air currents. You can't measure it, but metaphysically, you know that that's true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because metaphysically, you know that the mind of that bird or butterfly is affecting the natural flow of chitta energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, so this just connect the dots. The, the the mystic knowledge, the mystic constitution of man shows us the patterns and the operations of things. You know, so the nadi start at that base center, start in self-consciousness, which is the introduction for other species into the human race as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes up, and by its karmic pattern, it it operates from various chakras. It might be limited. The higher it goes, the more limited it becomes until it raises enough energy and conscious understanding in order to move to higher levels
Mm-hmm.
of operation.
Okay.
So, like on the, if you want to go on a purely physical side, like you said, like a more dense or urban area with multiple roads, levels of systems, yeah, because the system that place of tucking on higher levels of intelligence
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in order to operate. Not saying that it's operating perfectly,
Right.
but on some level it's operating to a level to create an equilibrium.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you. So table 5-1, seven major chakra, the bijas, petals, tattvas, and elements. And number one, we have the base of the spine, Muladhara chakra, and the chakra bijas, LAM. There's four petals. Its tattva is Bhuta, and sensitive matter quality is Earth, and has 56 tattvic rays. Number two, the sex center or the Svadhisthana chakra is Bijar, is VAM, has six petals. Is tattva is Agni, or matter quality is fire, and composes 62 tattvic rays. We have the solar plexus or the Manipura chakra. Its Bijar is RAM, has 10 petals. His tattva is Apas, or matter quality of water. and it contains 52 tattvic rays. Then we have the heart center, the Anahata chakra. Its bija is YAM, has 12 petals. Its tattva is Vayu, or matter quality of air, and has 54 tattvic rays. Next, we have the throat center, or the Vishuddha chakra. Its bija is HAM, has 16 petals. Its tattva is Akasa, or matter quality of ether, has 72 tattvic rays. Then we have the Christ center, or Ajna chakra. Its bija is OM, has 2 petals. Its tattva is Manas. Its matter quality is mind, and has 64 tattvic rays. And then finally the crown center, or the Sahasrara chakra. The first 6 major chakras along the spinal column are the chakras that represent the Shakti power within the Nadic system. And the crown chakra represents the Shiva power within the Nadic system. The major chakras that we will concern ourselves with are the above chakras mentioned along the spine. Listed below are several components of the chakras that we will examine in order to grasp the understanding behind the ancient teachings of yoga as it regards to each chakra. Throughout the ancient teachings of yoga, when describing the chakras, the following components are always mentioned. First, they have the bindu, a point of consciousness within every chakra. This bindu can be described as a point where the manifested and unmanifested point of the soul's consciousness reside, making it the point of all knowledge base, or point where the higher self or higher consciousness of man operates from. And from this operating point, all the other components of the chakras are brought into action to absorb the sacred power and cosmic moment of the spirit and soul, creating the point of manifestation. The bindu is the center of every component within the chakra and the signature power behind all the actions of every component of the chakra and every component that extends from the chakras. Nada, an all-pervasive sonic wave. The inner sound that becomes audible when the network of nadi, current, has been duly purified. Nada is that sound vibration released from the Absolute in order to bring about creation. It is said that the Absolute spoke the word, and this word caused the activation of the 2 mighty forces that were in a complete state of static. These 2 forces have been described as Akasa and Prana, which was manifested but not activated. The sound vibration nada struck this static force of Akasa and Prana, causing a rippling effect, a perpetual movement that is called creation. A perpetuator movement, sorry, that is called creation. This pure nada force resides in the bindu, or near this bindu, where the soul uses this nada force to recreate or perpetuate motion that has started from this word being issued at the beginning of creation. The bijas, or seed mantra. The bijas are sonic vibrations that assist in calibrating the mind frequencies and subtler energies. They make up the building blocks of consciousness. It is through the bijas that the nadis actually pass through the chakras. In other words, the nadis pass through the chakras via the bija chakras. The tattvic rays of the chakra. These tattvic rays are from the tattvic matter that extends from the sun and are the reflective tattvic rays from the earth and the reflective tattvic rays from the moon. These tattvic rays permeate throughout the whole solar system within all subtle and gross matter. They are the resource of sonic vibrations released from the mighty sun, and are described as the sonic modes of motion that act as a carrying agent for the pranic forces being radiated from the sun. While acting as the carrying agent, these tattvic rays group themselves in 6 groups, and each group represents the sensitive matter that assists in the building of the subtle and gross vehicles of expression for mankind. These six groups align themselves along the major chakras located on the spinal column. The tattvic rays help to synchronize, compress, and condition the cosmic energies into a denser gross material to allow the soul to build its vehicles of expressions such as the etheric, mental, subtle, astral bodies, and the physical body. Positive cosmic energy. This aspect of prana is recognized as the Pingala flow of energies from the chakras through the nadis. This flow of cosmic energy is the the vital life force of prana and serves to polarize all the systems within the human body. This polarization causes a definite vibrational pattern that promotes the specific qualities that are associated with this flow of energies. Negative cosmic energy. This aspect of prana is recognized as the Ida flow of energies through the nadis. The Ida flow of cosmic energies has a mental quality of energy flow that also polarizes all the subtle bodies and the gross human structures. Diva and host of divas of the chakras. The Divic kingdom is hard for most people to visualize, but if they realize that the divas are, I'm sorry, but if they realize that the divas that are referred to in most cases are actually the active forces of the elements and cosmic energies. In other words, the divas are an aspect of the vibrational forces of all energies. Within the vibrational nada wave of Shakti, there's a conscious race of beings whose sole purpose is to manipulate these forces from one specific pattern to the next. In fact, some ancient texts state that the forces of the divas, the forces are the divas themselves. Just as the human body thrives on the need to breathe and drink water, the divas thrive on the need to take in the pranic energies created from the thoughts and actions of all forms of life and manipulating these energies to create the environment or reaction results deserved from the thought and actions. I had a question there, but I'll ask it later. Uh, Magnetic force for mind substance. The magnetic force within the chakras is a result of Bindu, which is the concentrated compactness of Nada and Shakti power. A chakra is made up of a series of subtle sound vibrations extending from the Bindu that manifest the bija, which manifest the letters on the petals. These subtle sound vibrations have a natural magnetic power over mind substance, or mind Shakti, and cosmic energies. One second here. Okay, we're good. Diva, magnetic, mental, Shakti, Shakti, Megaspheres, cosmic energies. Each chakra manifested flow of cosmic energies is governed by the signature of tantric forces that places tremendous pressure on these vortex centers, chakras, of cosmic energies and mind substance being manipulated and managed by the soul. These tantric forces are the primary karmic pressures invoked by the creative word, released from the start of creation. The tantric forces placed on the chakras are different creative sonic vibrations that produce a variety of magnetic attractions and qualities that the chakras use to calibrate the universal cosmic energies and mind substance. These sonic vibrations are called bijas, seed mantras, surrounding the bindu of each chakra, which is the point of consciousness of the chakra and is the point where the soul expresses its consciousness by using the Shakti power, the Kundalini, that's activating these creative sonic vibrations in order to allow the lower conscious mind to amalgamate with the higher consciousness, or where the soul is bathed in the supreme light of the spirit. Okay, James, I see your uh, excuse me, your comment. When I get to the end of the section, I'll pose there your comment, which is right here. There are other karmic pressures that have a manipulating effect on the chakras, and that is the thought and impressions left on the auric field and the chakra entry and exit points. As man moves through evolution, his thoughts and actions leaves thought impressions or karmic signature, some skaras, on the auric body that mold and restrict the functions of these chakra centers until man transmutes these actions into something good and productive. The chakra system is the point where the bodiless consciousness of the soul is split up to form the mind of man. It is also the point where the different levels of consciousness, which are different realms of existence, is formed to allow man to express itself individually through the Maya Shakti, the power that moves the whole into not whole. Excuse me. Man's true points of consciousness are the chakra consciousness that lie within the chakra centers, not in the physical brain. The physical brain is a receiving set for conscious mind. Okay, and James says, I've been diving into Genesis in the Bible, trying to make sense out of it. It seems very symbolic. That could be too deep for me to presently understand, referring to creation in particular.
Is that a question or
Uh,
it's not really a question, but
yeah.
the Genesis is supposed to be written in parables, I think. I think the first four books of the Bible is written in parables, and then most of those books are written in parables. But if you understand certain levels of metaphysics, you can understand uh, parts of that's real and parts that's not real. Because just like in probably in the fifth or sixth grade, a teacher go to somebody, they go to the back of the class and whisper something in someone's ear, and then the next person supposed to tell all 20 or 35 students in the class. When they get to the last person, it's something totally different than than what was told. So that's the problem with the Bible. It has so many translations. So some of the writers, they put some of those books in code in order to try to preserve it.
Mm, mm. Okay. Here we got nice.
You wasn't here, Dwayne, when I did a couple lectures on the Bible.
No, I came in when you were doing the Theosophical Society teachings.
Yeah, there's some interesting sections which talks about the Constitution of Man. It talks
Mm-hmm.
about a lot of different things, but you have to decode it. There was one good guy that I didn't agree with everything he said, but he did try to decode it. He was with the Theosophical Society. I think his name was Jeffrey Hudson, if you want to go and get his books.
Jeffrey House. That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he wrote books on Tantra and decoding the Bible.
I think I'll stop here for today. Nadi system. Yeah, that should be good, right, Nima?
This might be heavy for a lot of people starting off.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I don't
Because
know. The axe is it too heavy for them? Uh,
I figured it would have been a good foundation to go before we dive into the 21 lessons proper, but
but the
it's
21 lessons is much more simpler than this, I think.
yeah, yeah, it is. Or explain simply.
I think I I think I wrote this before I wrote the 21 lessons. I think I wrote this. I,
Really?
yeah, I actually wrote this in 2009, 2010.
Oh, so you pulled parts of this for the write. I thought the write-up for the 21 lessons came before this.
No, no. 21 lessons came after this. I
Okay.
did the 21 lessons in order to teach you guys.
Oh, okay. This was okay. So then I'll
Lessons, remember the 21 lessons, it was easy, right?
yeah, yeah. I'll say yeah. It was easy. Yeah, easy to follow.
Because I catered it to in order to teach.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of my class, a lot of my people that was in the class, they had because I started a class in '96 at the university,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them had graduated, went into their careers, and moved away. So so you guys were a new group of people coming through. So I switched up in order to start from from ABC.
Okay. So you don't really go into the nadis until class three. So class one is spirit, soul, introduction of chakras. Class two is more chakras and nadis, introduction of nadis, and class three is more nadis. So I'll stop here. We'll do the first two classes, and then when we get into more detail that, or we get deeper into the nadi system, I think by halfway class two, class three, then we'll come back and we'll pick up with the nadi system here in the book, and we'll um
If you
that
see in there in the lectures, I go into the nadis, but I don't call it the nadis until I introduce the nadis. I may call it the lines of force, or,
yeah,
or I
or
may
subtle nervous system.
call
Yeah.
it the subtle nervous system.
Yes.
So until I get a chance to introduce the nadis to because it was Sanskrit, that's Sanskrit. So I build my way up to it so that everyone
Hmm.
feel comfortable with it.
So are there any final questions or comments before we close out today's session? I'm trying to look at the calendar here to see. I may have one or two trips coming up in June, but I'll let everyone know beforehand the dates for next month. We should have class next Sunday, June 1st. But keep abreast to your email as well as to Meetup if you're with us on Meetup. You'll see an announcement come out for respective class dates. If you would like to be added to our email list, because not, send us an email and I will add you to our new email announcement list every time I put up a class, announce a class. I send out a blast to everyone who's in our email list, and it includes the same information on Meetup, but additional information relevant to that particular class or session. Or if they have to reschedule a class, then they'll send it out through the email blast as well. Right. And for those of you that participated in this most recent spiritual push, which concluded on Friday, do be reminded that for a period of about 2 weeks after the last hour, the energy is still radiating, circulating throughout the earth for us to um, use and take advantage of. So do continue um, your prayer and spiritual practices, um, and they'll still be able to be amplified by the spiritual push energies for some time, even after the final hour. All right, if there are no further questions or comments, let us close out today's session with the reciting of the New Lord's Prayer. And again, if you have any additional questions or comments, you can send us an email, Mystic Knowledge Center, all one word, at gmail.com. If you're okay with us answering the question publicly, you can state that in the email, and we'll uh, both reply to you as well as share the response to your question in a subsequent session for the benefit of everyone else. Or if it's a private question, you can say that as well, and we'll respond only to you and keep it private between ourselves. Right, is there anything you wanted to add, Nehemiah, before we close up?
No, that's it.
All right, let us recite the New Lord's Prayer. New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so receive their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength, so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. O great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Oh, that's not correct. Gotta change that. Thank you very much, everyone, for your kind attendance and participation. Again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send them to us via email, and we'll follow up with a response. Again, visit our website, mysticknowledge.org, where you can go to the ebook library and download for free PDF versions of many texts they make available for everyone. And you welcome donations via PayPal. You can use the link there, donate.mystickknowledge.org, and or subdomain that'll route you directly to our PayPal portal. Feel free to give donations if you wish. Um, do take the opportunity to review classes 1 and 2 of the 21 lessons series, and so that when we get into them, we can conduct the class as both the review and discussion session. Okay. If nothing else, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.